He dedicated over 50 years to the same company until the day they called him into the office and told him he was too old to continue. Humiliated, he left without looking back. But fate? Oh, fate had other plans. Months later, that same man returned, not as an employee, but as the owner of the company. And in that room where they had expelled him, now he was the one in charge. This is one of the most impactful stories you'll hear today. Antonio Barbosa was 72 when he decided it wasn't time to stop yet. Not for him. Not for someone who had spent 52 years at the same company, Ferrajas Horizonte, a huge warehouse that produced metal parts for agricultural machinery. He started there at 20, when the warehouse was still made of wood and the machinery looked like scrap. Back then, Antonio was strong, fast, willing. Today, he no longer had the strength of youth, but he possessed something none of the young hires there had: wisdom. He was the only employee capable of assembling parts without a manual, identifying defects just by touch, adjusting machines that no one else even knew how to turn on. And he liked that. That was his life, his purpose, his name. Ferrajas Horizonte was his second home, perhaps even his first, since his own home had been empty since the death of Elisa, his wife, 5 years earlier. Since then, work was all he had left to keep from going crazy. That morning, at 6 a.m. sharp, Antonio opened the metal door of the company as he always did, walking slowly but steadily, his toolbox hanging by its leather strap. Some young people passed him almost running, as if they were late for a race and not for work. "Good morning, Mr. Tanyo," shouted Rafael, one of the rookie operators, raising his hand. "Good morning, my son," he replied, smiling. The younger ones respected him. They admired his calm demeanor, his steady hands, his incredible memory. Whenever something went wrong, Antonio was the one who fixed it. When the cutting machine jammed, they called Antonio. When a gear got stuck, they called Antonio. When a huge batch needed to be finished quickly, they called Antonio. And he went, always went. But that day, there was something different in the air. Early on, the general manager, Claudio Figuera, appeared in the production area. It was rare. He almost never went to the factory floor, unless it was to scold someone or to announce important changes. Claudio was the exact opposite of Antonio. Young, ambitious, full of modern ideas that never worked in practice. He thought that numbers were worth more than people, and that new machines were the solution to all problems. "Mr. Antonio," he called with an icy expression, "could you please accompany me to the office?" The nearby workers exchanged glances. It was never a good sign when the manager called someone to the office. Antonio dried his hands on his apron and slowly accompanied Claudio to the second floor. The room smelled of reheated coffee and expensive perfume. "Please sit," Claudio said, crossing his arms. Antonio sat. Something was tightening his chest, but he tried to remain calm. "Mr. Antonio, you know that here at Horizontes we have been seeking modernization, right?" "Yes, I know. I even helped set up the new machines that arrived last month." "Well, that's exactly what this is about." The manager paused dramatically. It seemed rehearsed. "You've worked very hard here. The company thanks you. But the time has come to rest, understand? The company is undergoing structural changes, and we need a faster, more up-to-date, more modern team." Antonio didn't understand at first. "Are you saying you want me to take a vacation?" he asked with sincere innocence. Claudio took a deep breath, impatient. "No, Antonio, we are terminating your contract. You are dismissed." The word echoed inside Antonio's mind as if someone had hit a hammer inside his head. Dismissed. After 52 years. "Why?" he asked, his voice trembling. Claudio consulted a folder even though he didn't need to. "You are elderly, and you are slower. You haven't kept up with the technology training. The company needs renewal. We appreciate your services, but..." Antonio lowered his head. It wasn't possible. He had never missed a single day. He had never shirked his duties. He had never left a job unfinished. "I can learn, Mr. Claudio. I can make an effort, you know." "It's no longer a matter of effort, Antonio. It's a matter of time, and yours has passed." Antonio closed his eyes. The blow was too deep for someone who had given his whole life there. Claudio held out a white envelope. "Here are your entitlements, and I'd like you to hand over your badge and the company's tools." Antonio put the envelope in his pocket, but when he heard about the tools, he immediately looked up. "My tools? But they are mine. I bought them with my own money."
"Some yes, some no. We need to check." Antonio stood up, indignant. "You don't know what you're saying. Those tools are my life. I brought them from my house. They're over 40 years old." Claudio raised his hand. "Antonio, please, don't cause trouble. Leave through the back door so as not to embarrass the others." It was like a stab. Through the back door. As if he were a burden. As if he were dirty. Antonio staggered out of the office. He slowly descended the stairs, feeling his legs give out. Upon reaching the production floor, Rafael and 4 other young men came up to him. "Mr. Tano, what happened?" "They sent me away, my children." The silence was absolute. "What?" Rafael shouted. "But you're the best here." "It's no use, my son. For them, I'm no longer useful." The young men were outraged, but Antonio gestured for them not to make trouble. "It's not worth fighting for me. Go your own ways. I will go mine." Rafael insisted. "Then at least take your tools." Antonio opened his box. He picked up each wrench as if picking up a piece of his own soul. He put everything away slowly, with respect. "Ready? Let's go," he said, closing the box. Rafael accompanied him to the gate. As he walked through the company gate, the sun hit Antonio's face in a strange way. He stopped and looked at the enormous gray warehouse. 52 years, reduced to a cold farewell. "Goodbye," he murmured, and he left. When he arrived home, the small, simple house where he lived alone, Antonio sat in his favorite armchair and looked at his hands. Calloused, firm hands, but trembling at that moment. He opened the envelope. That amount wouldn't support anyone for long. He knew that. "Elisa," he murmured, looking at his wife's photo on the wall. "If you were here, you would know what to do." But Elisa wasn't there. And for the first time, Antonio felt fear of the future. In the following days, he tried to find work in other companies. They just had to see his age to immediately dismiss him. "You're too old for heavy work. We're looking for someone more dynamic. You should be retired, not here." The answers were always the same, and each no weighed more than the previous one. The bills started to pile up. The gas expired. His blood pressure medicine was running out. The refrigerator became emptier and emptier. Until, on a quiet afternoon, while cleaning his old tools, Antonio had a simple but powerful idea. What if I opened a small repair service in my backyard? He didn't know if it would work, but it was all he had left. And sometimes, all it takes for destiny to begin to change is precisely to be at a dead end. It was the beginning of something Antonio would never imagine, a journey that would take him back into Ferrage's Horizonte, but this time sitting in the owner's chair. And it would all start with an unexpected request for help. Antonio woke up early that Monday. The sun had barely appeared, but he was already sitting in the backyard, cleaning his old tools with an old cloth. Each screw, wrench, and hammer seemed to carry vivid memories of the past. The idea of setting up a small repair space in the back of the yard had been hammering in his head since the night before. At first, he thought it impossible. He had no sign, no advertising, not even the certainty that anyone would show up. But he had something more important. He knew how to work. After so much time, he realized that perhaps that was enough. He opened his gate, placed a wooden crate as support, and improvised a sign with white paint. Mechanical repairs, Antonio Barbosa, fair prices, honest service. When he finished, he took a deep breath. If that didn't work, he didn't know what he would do. No one appeared on the first day. On the second, no one. On the third, he almost gave up. But on the fourth day, he heard a knock at the gate. "Mr. Antonio," a woman's voice said, "is this where you fix fans?" Antonio smiled for the first time in days. It was Donna Carmen, the neighbor from the street above. Her fan hadn't been spinning for weeks. Antonio opened the equipment, cleaned it, adjusted the gear, and replaced a burnt wire. 20 minutes later, it was working like new. "My God," she exclaimed, "you're a miracle worker. How much is it?" 15 reais is fine." 15? She almost argued. "You're worth much more than that, Mr. Antonio. 25 here and keep the change." She left calling him a genius, and that same afternoon, 2 more neighbors appeared. One with a broken blender, another with a problematic faucet. Antonio worked from dawn till dusk, and for the first time in weeks, he had dinner with warm food and a discreet smile on his face. At the end of that same week, something happened. He was closing the gate when he saw an old car almost falling apart stop in front of his house. It was Mauro's car, owner of a small mini-market.
"Seu Antonio, help me, please!" Mauro got out of the car, desperate. "The engine died in the middle of the hill. I tried to start it, but nothing." "Open the hood," Antonio asked. With a flashlight in hand and his crooked glasses slipping down his nose, he examined every part. He adjusted here, tightened there, tested the carburetor, and in 5 minutes, the engine started as if new. "How much do I owe you, Seu Antonio?" Mauro asked. "Nothing." "How nothing? You're my neighbor. Consider it a friend's favor." Mauro was touched, and that's where it all began. The next day, everyone in the neighborhood already knew. The old man who fixes everything opened a workshop in his backyard. And suddenly, there was a queue. Fans, blenders, sewing machines, bicycles, faucets, locks, baby strollers, everything was placed on Antonio's improvised workbench. He refused nothing. If he didn't know, he learned. If he learned, he fixed. And with every well-done repair, someone recommended him to 3 more people. In just 3 weeks, Antonio already had more work than he could do alone. And with that, money started to come in. He paid overdue bills, bought medicine, filled the fridge, but most importantly, he felt alive again. One Saturday morning, as Antonio finished reassembling a washing machine motor, someone knocked hard on the gate. It was a sweaty, panting young man. "Are you Antonio Barbosa?" "That's me, my boy. What's wrong?" "I really need your help. I'm a city driver. We have a big generator that broke down at the municipal school. There's an event today. Television will film everything. They called 3 different technicians and no one could fix it. The mayor is desperate." Antonio became thoughtful. "A big generator, industrial model." "Yes, sir, and no one can make it start. Can you do it?" Antonio took a deep breath. It was the kind of thing he hadn't touched since his factory days, but why not try? "I can go take a look." When he arrived at the school, there was a huge group of adults arguing, employees running everywhere, and a TV crew setting up cameras. The generator was off, enormous, the size of a small car. "That's the problem," the driver said. The mayor came running. "Are you the technician? For God's sake, make this work. The event is in 3 hours." Antonio merely nodded his head. He promised nothing. He didn't need to. He knelt down slowly, opened the panel, and began to examine every wire, every fuse, every connector. Until, suddenly, his fingers stopped. He touched it again. He frowned. He smiled. "I found the problem." "You found it?" The mayor almost shouted. "In 10 minutes, but the other technicians stayed here for over 2 hours each." "Well," Antonio replied, "sometimes you just need to listen to the engine calmly."
He tightened the loose screw on the regulator, adjusted the intake valve, and asked, "You can turn it on." The driver turned the key. The generator purred like a tiger waking from a deep sleep. It started on the first try. The employees applauded. The mayor hugged Antonio. The TV crew filmed everything. And someone asked, "So Antonio, how much was the service?" He hesitated. He didn't know how much to charge a city hall, so he simply said, "What's necessary to eat well today?" The mayor laughed and handed him 500 reais. And so, without realizing it, Antonio became local news. The next day, he was in the morning newspaper. 72-year-old elderly man saves municipal event by fixing generator that no one could repair. From that day on, his gate never stopped knocking. While Antonio prospered, Ferragens Horizonte sank. The young employees, though quick, kept breaking machines due to lack of experience. Production was delayed. Customers complained about poorly assembled parts. And, to make matters worse, Claudio kept changing equipment without consulting anyone, which only created more chaos. There were rumors that the owner, Mr. Alberto, was furious. And in internal meetings, Claudio blamed everyone except himself. Until one morning, something happened. The main machine, responsible for 60% of production, simply jammed during an important batch. An entire block of gears came out crooked, unusable. They tried everything. They changed fuses, they restarted the system, they called technicians. Nothing. "If Seu Antonio were here, he'd fix it," Rafael murmured. Claudio didn't even respond. He knew it was true, and that hurt more than admitting it. One rainy afternoon, as Antonio finished disassembling an automatic gate motor, a luxury car parked in front of his house. From inside, a gentleman in an impeccable blue suit stepped out. It was Alberto, the owner of Ferragens Horizonte. Antonio was surprised. "Mr. Alberto?" "Antonio, I needed to talk to you." Alberto didn't ask to come in. He just entered. He sat in the old kitchen chair as if it were his own meeting room. "Antonio, I heard what happened. I heard Claudio dismissed you. I'm sorry." Antonio maintained his composure. "You don't need to apologize. It's in the past."
The businessman seemed nervous. He scratched the back of his neck, adjusted his glasses, tapped his fingers on the table. "Antonio, the factory is going through a serious problem. I imagine. The main machine broke down. No one can adjust it. We've been stopped for 5 days." And he took a deep breath. "The technicians say only someone with great experience can fix it." Antonio crossed his arms. "Experience? I thought that wasn't worth anything there anymore." Alberto swallowed hard. "I need you, Antonio." The sincerity in his voice was real. It wasn't arrogance. It was desperation. "Antonio," Alberto continued, "if this machine doesn't get back to work, we'll lose the factory's biggest client. I can't leave 50 employees without a salary. I need you to come back, just for 1 day, just to fix the machine." Antonio remained silent. The wall clock ticked each second like a hammer blow. "Mr. Alberto, I can go." The businessman smiled with relief. But the smile vanished. "I won't come back as an employee, not for a minute." "As what then?" "As a consultant." Of course, I'll pay whatever you ask." "And one more thing." "Anything, Antonio. The factory has a management problem. As long as that manager is there, nothing will work." Alberto understood the message right away. Claudio? Him. Consider it done. The next day, at 6 a.m., Antonio appeared at the factory door. Rafael and other colleagues ran to him when they saw him. "Mr. Tonio, you're back? Thank God! The machine will work again." Claudio came out of the office, white as a sheet. When he saw Antonio, he almost fell backward. "What is he doing here?"
Alberto put his hand on Claudio's shoulder and spoke softly. "You're fired. Clear your desk." Claudio said nothing. He simply left. And Antonio entered. He walked to the giant machine, picked up the screwdriver as if it were part of his own body, put his ear to the panel, touched each gear, disassembled part of the engine. "There it is," he murmured, "a simple yet serious error." 3 hours later, the machine started. The noise echoed through the warehouse. The employees cheered with joy. Some cried. Antonio stood watching, as if he had reconnected with a part of himself. Alberto, moved, said, "Antonio, I want you back, but this time as my partner." Antonio stood still. He could only say, "What did you say?" "You heard me. Without you, the factory wouldn't exist. I want you with me, 30% of the company." The warehouse erupted in applause, and Antonio, the same man who had been kicked out through the back door, was now invited to enter through the main door as an owner. And that was just the beginning. The entire warehouse was still buzzing with applause when Antonio moved, held his tools as if holding his own history. That same toolbox he had carried out, humiliated, now came back with him as a symbol of victory. But Antonio didn't immediately respond to the offer. "Mr. Alberto, I don't know if I deserve all this." "You deserve more than anyone here," the factory owner said firmly. "You kept this company afloat for 50 years. Now I want you to own it with me." The employees began to chant, "It's Tonio! He's the master! He's the owner!" Rafael embraced Antonio with tears in his eyes. "I knew you'd come back! I knew it!" Antonio couldn't contain his emotion. He wiped his eyes and nodded. "I accept, but with one condition." Silence fell over the warehouse. "I want the workers to have a voice. I want training. I want the experienced ones to help the new ones. And I want no one to be dismissed because of age." Alberto smiled. "Done. And one more thing," Antonio said. "I want Rafael to be promoted. He has leadership and talent." Rafael almost fell backward. And so, before everyone, the agreement was sealed. Antonio Barbosa, the man who had left through the back door driven by shame, now entered through the boardroom door with a badge that read, "Antonio Barbosa, Partner." The next day, Antonio arrived early, as he always did. Only this time, he didn't go straight to the machines. He climbed the boardroom stairs, opened the door to the largest room, the one he couldn't even enter before, and sat in the chair that was now his. The swivel chair creaked a little. He smiled. "I can fix that too," he said, joking to himself. Soon there was a knock at the door. It was Rafael with a folder in his hands. "Mr. Antonio, forgive the interruption, but the production staff wanted to speak with you." Antonio stood up and accompanied him to the factory floor. When he appeared there, the entire production staff gathered in a circle. There were workers from all departments, some with tearful eyes. "We wanted to thank you," said a welder. "If you hadn't come back, we would all be out on the streets. You saved our families, Mr. Antonio. You saved our dignity." Antonio took a deep breath, moved. "I didn't save you." "Yes, you did," someone shouted. "No," he replied. "What saved this place was experience. What saved it were the hands that work honestly every day. What saved it was the knowledge of each one of you." Everyone applauded. And at that moment, something began to change inside Ferraganzas Horizonte. With Antonio as a partner, the transformations came quickly, but without shouting, without impositions. He made changes as he did his repairs, with calm, care, and surgical precision. The old machines? He had them serviced, instead of rushing to replace them. And guess what? They worked better than the new ones. The new employees? They received training from the most experienced, creating an environment where everyone learned and taught. The older ones? They were valued. They became mentors. And something incredible happened. Productivity increased. Errors decreased. Customers returned. Even those customers who had abandoned Fragancia's Horizonte returned. And everyone wanted to be served by that gentleman who knows everything about machines. One day, an entrepreneur from the agricultural sector visited the factory. He owned a gigantic distributor. "I heard you went through a restructuring," he said. "And most importantly, I heard you have a rare specialist here." Antonio laughed, not understanding they were talking about him. "Who is this specialist?" "You, Mr. Antonio," replied the entrepreneur, shaking his hand. "You repaired a generator at a school last month. My team saw the report." Antonio felt awkward. "I just did what I always do." "Well then," said the entrepreneur, "I want your company to produce exclusive parts for our machines. A 3-year contract." Alberto almost fell out of his chair. It was the largest contract in the factory's history. And all thanks to the man who was once considered too old. A few months passed. The factory grew, functioned well, and Antonio was called master. But one day, the mayor sought him out again. "Mr. Antonio, remember the generator?" "Of course. We want you to participate in an event at the school. A tribute." "A tribute? Me?" "Yes. We want to talk about the importance of respecting the elderly and valuing experience." Antonio was moved. On the day of the tribute, the children drew pictures of him, some clumsy, others funny, all beautiful. One girl handed him a drawing that melted his heart. It was Antonio repairing a huge machine, with the title, "The Man Who Fixed the World." Antonio held the drawing against his chest. "I didn't fix the world, my daughter," he said. "I just do my best." One afternoon, months after his dismissal, Claudio appeared at the factory. He looked downcast, pale, without his former arrogance. I wanted to talk to Mr. Antonio," he said to the receptionist. When Antonio came out of the room, he saw Claudio standing there, nervous, holding his hat tightly. "Antonio, I wanted to apologize. I shouldn't have treated you that way." "It's all right," said Antonio. "No, it's not. I lost my job. My family is struggling. I can't find a position anywhere. I just wanted a chance." Antonio analyzed the man in front of him. It's easy to humiliate someone when we're on top. It's hard to ask for forgiveness when we're at the bottom. "Claudio," he said finally, "I learned that everyone deserves a second chance." Claudio's eyes filled with hope. "So, you—" "But," Antonio continued, "a second chance doesn't mean repeating the same mistakes. Here, everyone works with respect, and respect begins by recognizing that no one is expendable." Claudio swallowed hard. "I know." "Then come tomorrow at 7 a.m., said Antonio. "We need someone in the administrative sector, preferably someone who now understands the importance of listening to their elders." Alberto heard the entire conversation and did not disagree. Claudio left with tears in his eyes. Antonio had followed the lesson his wife Elisa always said. When someone hurts you, show that you are better, but without hurting them back. A year after becoming a partner, Fragancia's Horizonte grew so much that it was invited to receive a state award for industrial excellence. The ceremony would be televised. On the day of the event, Antonio wore his simplest suit, the same one he wore at his daughter's wedding years ago. He felt out of place among so many tie-wearing businessmen, but Alberto walked beside him as if they were on the same level. When the award was announced, something unexpected happened. The Industrial Excellence Award goes to Fragancia's Horizonte! And
we want to call to the stage the reason for this achievement, Antonio Barbosa. The entire auditorium stood up. Deafening applause echoed through the hall. Some even shouted, "Bravo! Bravo!" Antonio slowly ascended the stage with short steps and received a golden plaque. The presenter asked, "Mr. Antonio, what is the secret to your success?" And he replied,
The secret is not to give up when they say you're no longer useful. The secret is to remember that experience doesn't age, and that as long as there's someone who needs what you know, you'll never be too old. The auditorium erupted in applause. Back at the factory, late at night, Antonio entered the silent warehouse. A light touch on the metal, the smell of oil, echoes of a lifetime spent there. Raphael appeared. "Mr. Antonio, are you all right?" "I am, just remembering where I came from." "If it weren't for you," Raphael said, "I would never have grown here. I wouldn't have learned anything. You taught me everything." Antonio smiled. "Rafa, everything I taught you, you will teach to others one day. But no one will be like you." "I hope not," Antonio replied. "I hope you will be better." Raphael hugged him, and in that embrace was all the gratitude in the world. Antonio Barbosa, now 73 years old, was not just a mechanic. He was not just a partner. He was a master, a symbol, a living reminder that the world makes a mistake when it discards those who know the most. He turned off the warehouse light, closed the door, and murmured, "Thank you, Elisa, for never letting me give up." And he left, walking with his toolbox in hand, not because he needed them, but because they were his history, and history is not abandoned. If this story touched your heart, then leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to remember that it's never too late to start over. Write in the comments, do you know someone who was discarded but came back even stronger? I want to read it all. And if you want more stories like this, comment, "I want more." Thank you for watching, and until the next story.